What's your favorite conspiracy theory?
The Area 51 conspiracies are actually started by the government to distract everyone's attention from the real secret bases thing. It kind of makes a little sense on one hand, but the conspiracy theories about conspiracy theories thing is a real weird rabbit hole to start wandering down. I've heard something about a mountain base that's even more secret and more secluded from humanity than Area 51. Oh, I've heard this one. The story goes it has a sort of gate, though which people travel to other stars. A sort of stargate. Reminds me of the claims of a guy who claims to have time traveled to Mars with young Obama, a conspiracy theory that the Iraqis had stargates, and that Pine Gap, basically Australia's Area 51, is hiding stargates that are used to send future super soldiers through time to fight in Martian wars. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time-traveling safari meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight, but because of human mechanical errors, there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history, but there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also, the reason why we don't see as many examples of UFOs now, even through pretty much everyone has a camera, is because people are not that interested in this time period, since we already document aspects of human life all the time. I feel like the odds of this being one of the most far-fetched pieces of stupidity ever uttered by man versus the odds of this being really close to the absolute truth is like 50-50ths. I wonder if maybe they chilled the fuck out with traveling to now because people were starting to talk about it on the WeirdoNet and then slightly more believable sites, and then in 2029 Oprah and Neil deGrasse Tyson do a show that basically proves it, so travel to around this time is restricted to only the future us with the highest clearance. The CIA invented crack to fund the war on communist parties in South America. Is this that much of a conspiracy? I mean, maybe creating it is, but they definitely fueled its use in the US to help those Nicaraguan rebels fund their war. Like Project Ultra, it was a conspiracy theory that was eventually proved to be pretty much true. It's not a situation where the government or the CIA sat down and said, okay, let's invent crack, let's sell it in black neighborhoods, let's decimate Black America, Webb says. It was a situation where we need money for a covert operation. The quickest way to raise it is sell cocaine. You guys go sell it somewhere. We don't want to know anything about it. The conspiracy is true, but don't listen to HuffPo. They are very clearly anti-white, most prominent in their cancelled show, Judge of Characters, Jock, radicalists. They aren't out for equality, they are out for elimination of all white people. Seriously, just have a listen.
Wrestling is real. Also, I don't know if this counts as a theory, but I stumbled upon a post on here a little while ago where someone was speculating about all the pedophilia in Hollywood. They meant that the studios and production companies hold some of their stars in check via blackmail. Back in the day it was homosexuality, nowadays gay is okay, so they find those who like diddle kids and make them stars instead. By doing this they have someone to mold into the product they want to sell without risking having them step out of line. The Rand Corporation, in conjunction with the Saucer People, under the supervision of the reverse vampires, are forcing our parents to go to bed early in a fiendish plot to eliminate the meal of dinner. Third Eye spies in the CIA. Check that shit out. I thought this said Third Eye Blind is in the CIA, and I pondered for a second how it could actually work.
HIV/AIDS doesn't exist, was artificially created to control the population. I know a few stories that involve children dying due to said HIV/AIDS because their parents didn't believe that it existed. What a weird theory. Apparently, 35 million people have died from HIV/AIDS. That's what, 0.5% of the population in 30 to 40 years? The theory that the moon landings discovered evidence of aliens on the moon. Or the authorities were already aware of alien bases on the moon, and the landings were funded to retrieve alien technology. This is my favorite, as I like to imagine what happens at conspiracy conventions when the conspiracy theorists who say the moon landings were faked meet the ones whose theory absolutely relies on the moon landings being real. Punch-ups in the car park, probably.
That the Rothschilds, I think, something with an R, wanted to expand their markets for oil, so they invented petroleum-based agrochemicals, GMOs, and vaccines to make people sick, meaning that they could sell them their petroleum-based medicines that they pushed by secretly funding all medical schools to indoctrinate new doctors into using them. They claim that diseases like cancer and diabetes and such didn't exist, and that people were healthier and lived longer in pre-modern eras, and natural food and homeopathy will make people do so again. You're probably thinking of the Rockefellers. Rothschild family's thing has always been banking. John D. Rockefeller was the first oil tycoon and at one point essentially held a monopoly with his company Standard Oil. Indeed I am, thank you. Isn't there a conspiracy regarding the Rothschilds financing both sides in WW2, or have I listened to too many tales from a pal?
Almost everything Alex Jones says is right. The Russians are the cause of the anti-vax movement in an attempt to lower the health of Americans and subvert our democracy. That Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy and killed to cover up the fact he had evidence JFK's head just did that. Jay-Z never cheated on Bayance, it was all a publicity stunt to promote their albums Lemonade and 444. Do you watch Ryan?
This guy tried to convince me that World War II was not as we are taught. I guess in his mind Hitler declared war on the Allies over a transatlantic bridge, New York to France, and U-boats found about it and told Hitler. The Blitz was a bombing campaign to destroy the bridge and it worked. Like dude, we didn't even have the technology to finish the Brooklyn Bridge at the time. You really think we didn't have the tech? The government had tech 100 years before people discover it. I think that Star Trek we already have that tech. We go from star system to STSR system. Why is so many billions in the military, yet we're barely more powerful than other countries? Sorry for spelling myth and lag sometimes when I talk about theories every time. The US government is run by outer space aliens. Democracy in America. That's just plain BS.
In the 1950s, before the shampoo and conditioner companies were unified under the same brands, the shampoo industry started the myth that hair conditioner would somehow attract nuclear radiation in the event of a war. They paid scientists to tell people not to use conditioner in the event of a nuclear war because it would lead to poisoning. Of course, shampoo was totally necessary to get the nuclear fallout out of one's hair. Fast forward to today and the myth remains, since nobody has bothered to check the science behind the myth. After all, the industry wants that part of history forgotten about, so people stop associating conditioner with death, and rehashing the myth with new scientific testing will only further its perpetuation in pop culture. Big Hair Care would rather you just bought all the shampoo and conditioner possible, but unfortunately for them, the lies from Big Shampoo decades ago still make their way into government safety pamphlets and the like. Robert McNamara, being a student of siege warfare in Leningrad, intentionally increased the weight of the average American beginning in the mid-60s to help us survive a nuclear holocaust. Also introduced factory farming to provide us with indoor food that would be protected from fallout.
Avril Lavigne is dead. That NASA really did hire Stanley Kubrick to make a moon landing film, but he was such a perfectionist that they had to go there anyways and film it on location. A branch of Christian dominionism, there isn't a single name for it as far as I can find, but people who believe this usually use militaristic words like tactical, strategic and warfare to preface their brand of Christianity. They believe the reason Christianity is not the dominant only religion in the world is because there are demons in the form of idols placed strategically throughout the planet to push God's truth out of their region and replace it with their own evil influence. The Statue of Liberty is the demonic idol that rules over the US.
My relative has a conspiracy theory that in the national parks, all the animals are tagged and tracked. The park rangers know where each animal is at all times and moves them into a certain location and then tells visitors to go there because somebody saw an animal a while ago. This brings attention and tourism to the national parks, where people think they are seeing an animal in the wild but are really put there by the park rangers. After hearing it, it has become my favorite conspiracy theory, and I think about it a few times a week. The birds all die due to Reagan killing them and replacing them with spies. The birds work for the bourgeoisie. There is an SCP site underneath Area 51. I just made this up now.
That the word pineapple was first uttered by an Australian, describing how it was like to eat it. That humans are a universal species, however we will not be able to communicate with others until tech advances. I know this is most likely to be way untrue, but this is my favorite thing to think about. Google a biogenic petroleum origin. Basically the theory is that oil is not a fossil fuel, the earth generates it spontaneously deep underground and is not at all scarce. The theory is that the oil companies all know this and have created the mirage that this stuff is somehow a limited resource. If you think about it, oil is supposed to be the highly pressurized remains of dinosaurs and ferns from millions of years ago. Does that really make sense though? I mean, have you ever tried killing dinosaurs and prehistoric ferns and pressurizing them for a few million years? My buddy legit beloved that North Korea is actually one giant American military base. The whole recluse nation and crazy dictator are a front to keep everyone else at bay. His reason for believing this is he had a buddy who flew planes in the Air Force and would fly all the time to NK. Whenever pressed this, he said he couldn't say who it was cause it would get his buddy killed. That mattress stores are a front for money laundering. There's so many of them, but no one is in the store. It's pretty suspicious at how the stores are still in business, and there are so many security cameras everywhere around the store. Also, the chapstick companies put microscopic pieces of glass in their chapstick to make people buy more. Those are just some of the more realistic conspiracy theories. John Bennett never died. It was a publicity stunt long con for when she would come out as Katy Perry as a young adult.